Tonight we're highlighting coverage of the 765 kilovolt transmission line planned to span nearly 200 miles from West Texas to Bell County. Encore says it's needed to keep up with growth and maintain reliable electric service for its customers.
Yeah, the project has been controversial since it was proposed, with hundreds of residents and many state lawmakers protesting the plan. 6 News first reported on it in August of last year when homeowners were told the route may cut through their backyards. I spoke to residents who said they were blindsided.
The village of Salado, known for its rolling hills, tall trees, and peaceful sunsets. But soon, some fear those sunsets may be overshadowed by towering steel giants.
19 stories tall and 170 feet wide. These towers are massive. They're going to be seriously ugly.
Eric Stone only learned days ago that a massive transmission line will run right through his pasture.
I'm really concerned with basically valuing it and it cutting a lot of the equity out of my home.
Chuck Morrison sees the threat through a more personal lens.
With a pacemaker, I cannot live anywhere near transmission lines. Just when I first had it installed, the doctor says, stay away from transmission lines. He didn't say how far, but I would assume at least a half mile.
He feels the community was blindsided with little notice.
The natives are restless and we're upset. And they tried to sneak it behind us.
Both Eric and Chuck are in the path of the E1 route, a proposed corridor that many say impacts more residents than alternative routes.
The better solution would be for it not to happen in residential areas. We're building a new high school that is a third of a mile from the tower, and then we have an elementary school which is going to be just a hop from there.
Nikki Siegel moved here in January, hoping this would be her forever home. Now she has to worry.
It's disrupting our lives, our culture, and even our wildlife.
She started a petition to stop the project in Salado.
We need to speak up, and we need to make our concerns, and we need to sign the petition, and we need to talk to our legislation.
That includes Representative Brad Buckley of House District 54.
It is of utmost importance that they stand before the people of my district and Bell County and really explain this project.
The Bell County native agrees there has been a lack of transparency and public input for this project.
As current law stands now, that a transmission project does not have to be authorized by the legislature. You know, it is outside of our purview, but it's not outside of our purview to demand that these projects be vetted with the public and that we take a deep look.
In 2023, Buckley voted in favor of House Bill 5066, all to extend transmission service to support the growing demand of the electric power grid. Buckley says he didn't know how it would be done.
The bill did not propose any routes. It did not authorize any power lines.
He is calling on those impacted by the proposal to weigh in, and that's exactly what Jim Holder has done.
Lord willing, that this goes on a different path out through the country.
The towers are planned to stand just 75 feet from his home, slicing through land that's been in his wife's family for more than 50 years.
If it goes through, we will have to move. And they're going to do eminent domain on the land, which we won't get anything hardly for it, pennies on the dollar. And then the home, we won't be able to live in it.
And he fears the project will carve a destructive path through the heart of a growing village.
It stunts the growth of Salado in the future.
Then in late February, the project timeline was extended by Encore in order to review the community feedback.
More residents were learning about the proposal and making their voice heard. I got a chance to speak to one family who had personal experience with the dangers surrounding this project.
That direction.
For Craig Edwards and his wife, Salado was supposed to be their sanctuary, a quiet place to settle, plant a garden, and enjoy their new home. But now,
it makes no sense at all. This is a residential area. It's not meant for towers to come through.
A proposed high-voltage transmission line could cut just feet from their backyard. He's one of several residents speaking out as potential routes move closer to where people live.
Our number one fear would be the loss of our property value if that does go in there, and then, again, the health risks. And third is just to the community.
But for Edwards, the fear runs deeper than most.
We came from California, and we'd lost our home in the Camp Fire in 2018, and that is actually That fire was started by faulty high voltage line 20 miles out from the town of Paradise and wiped out the entire town. We moved to Texas and we end up in Salado and we might get that same thing in our backyard.
State Representative Brad Buckley says the concerns from residents have been loud and consistent.
It's either their property values, quality of life, or their health.
Now the project's timeline has been adjusted after what developers describe as a high volume of public feedback from landowners, stakeholders, and elected officials.
I think it is a recognition from PUC and from Encore just how contentious this is. And I think it it certainly makes everyone aware of just how closely people are watching this, and they want, we want to make certain that through this process we're heard.
But for residents like Edwards, the waiting and the uncertainty is the hardest part.
This topic needs to be kept alive because decisions are being made that will affect many people, many property values, and the health of a lot of people, and the future of the community of Salado. And if we just sit down and don't say anything about it and it goes through, 5 years down the road, there's going to be a lot of unhappy people.
As the process moves toward a possible March filing, Buckley says the final decision will come down to where the line is ultimately placed.
At the end of the day, it's the final route. Where do they intend to put this thing? And that's what I will continue to fight for my constituents, to make sure that we protect their quality of life, their property values, and their health the whole way.
For now, families along the many proposed paths are staying engaged.
The time is now to fight this,
hoping their voices continue to shape what happens next.
In March, Encore and LCRA officially filed their application with the State Public Utility Commission. When we spoke to landowners at that time, one said there are serious concerns and better options for the route. A proposed power line project now under review by the Public Utility Commission of Texas would bring 765 kilovolt transmission lines from Central to West Texas.
Our focus has been on flow in the San Saba River, protecting the San Saba River.
Residents living near the proposed project, like Dave Clark, say the project raises serious concerns.
These towers are going to be taller than anything that exists in a lot of these counties. These things are massive, and our concern is that the utility companies and, quite frankly, the PUC are just allowing these lines to be routed right through rural country that's privately owned, that's ranched, and it's just going to destroy the land.
Project specialist Casey Petty said in a direct testimony that out of 122 alternative routes for the project, Route 894, which runs through 15 counties, was the best route based on route length and cost. While Clark acknowledges the need to strengthen the grid, he says there may be better options.
Why not put these lines along existing highway right-of-ways? That's what we're arguing for. And getting it out of Central Texas rivers, the San Saba River, land that just hasn't been used this way before.
In a statement to 6 News, Encore spokesperson Andrew Clark noted all routes are currently proposals and they have not selected a preferred route as of now. Still, residents urge others this may affect them in the near future as well.
Up until now, it's really been an issue for, the Hill Country, West Texas, Central Texas. What people need to know is it's coming their way. So what we're going through now is coming their way, and they need to know that.
Well, in April, residents in Holland came together to learn exactly how to make their voices heard.
Our Adriana Alexander was there to learn more about the concerns community members had.
Most residents of Holland say they want no parts of a $2 billion transmission line project looking to be built in or near their community.
These are our homes, our land, our livelihood.
Wednesday evening, Holland resident Ann Mattis hosted a community meeting to show residents exactly how to send their public comments to the Public Utility Commission of Texas. For Holland native Leyland Gersbeck, those transmission lines would be just yards away from his home.
The easement would be 30 yards from my house, and then I'll have another place that would be coming east and west through it. I don't live on it, my brother lives there. But it would be probably 200 yards past his house.
This proposal has stirred up hundreds of people in both Salado and Holland. Isla Shiplet has family land in Holland that she's not prepared to ever give up.
I'm not ready to give up my little farm. It might just take me out, but I want my say-so ahead of time. I'm opposing it.
After reaching out to Encore about residents' concerns, the company said in part that they've studied hundreds of possible routes and considered impacts to property owners and the environment. They added that the PUC of Texas will make the final decision after reviewing public feedback.
Well, a lot of folks aren't doing it correctly or leaving information out, and I'm afraid their filing will be discarded because it's hard to tell exactly what they're trying to say and what property is affected. So we're making sure that ours don't get discarded.
In April, the deadline to officially challenge the project was growing closer, and Slato also held a community meeting to explain options for residents.
Plus, we continued to hear from residents about the plan. Or Juliana Jackson spoke to one man who said the project would threaten his family's livelihood and legacy.
Brings it, real, where you can listen to the sights, the sounds, you get to hear, you get to see the wide open space.
For Slato landowner John Bradley, that peace may not last much longer. A proposed 765 kilovolt transmission line project could cut straight through his land.
E8 coming in from the east, you've got E9 coming in from the south, meeting right here at this ground and going to G71, and G71 goes directly over the path where we had intended to start building.
Bradley says those lines wouldn't just cross his property. It would take out trees, disrupting water systems, calling it a threat to his livelihood.
I'm gonna lose my corral, I'm gonna lose my trough. I have nowhere else for my water to go.
With the clock ticking, many landowners are turning to one key step, filing intervenor papers.
A ticket to then go into the dance, to then provide testimony.
That ticket allows them to formally weigh in before the Public Utility Commission decides the project's future. Now, state leaders are urging people to act.
Fill out the intervenor form and make sure that they, fill out the form so they can have legal standing as this case moves forward.
Representative Brad Buckley says the project is massive and raises questions about it that he wants answers to.
Let's not get sidetracked with an unnecessary behemoth of a power line project that really is going to scar my district and many areas of Texas.
For Bradley, this fight is about more than power lines. It's about protecting land he hopes to pass down to the next generation.
Where they do that, we're going to lose all this based on the segments, and it is a death sentence for our ranch and our family's legacy.
In May, Bell County leaders weighed in on the fight as well.
They started pushing for major changes to the decision-making process. Bell County commissioners were asking the process for the project to be paused until the next legislative session to give more time for lawmakers to take a closer look at the project.
They also asked for the public hearings to be moved from Austin to Bell County to better allow residents an opportunity to make their voices heard.
And just a week later, lawmakers sent a formal request to the Public Utility Commission of Texas asking for a meeting over the expansion project. 23 different state lawmakers signed it in May. That included Brad Buckley, Hillary Hicklin, and Pete Flores. They say Encore's project might be too much too fast. They are recommending that the PUC focus on generating more power and say it's abundantly clear that prioritizing transmission of energy does nothing to address states' power generation issues.
And in June, state judges denied a request from more than 170 landowners to delay the project further.
Our Juliana Jackson spoke to some of the residents who filed about the issues that they're facing.
The legal fight over the Big Hill transmission line continues. A state judge has denied a motion filed by John Burrow and more than 170 other landowners seeking to delay the case over concerns about notice to property owners.
Not just in Bell County and these counties where these lines are running, but to all ratepayers in the state of Texas.
Burrow is one of hundreds of landowners preparing to testify.
And then it's going to come between our house over here and that house, so it'll be all of these structures are within 500 feet.
Eric Goldbrayson says his family only learned months ago their property was along the preferred route.
Our 4 kids here that we homeschool, my wife and the kids are here most of the day. These lines would probably be about 300 feet from our home.
But residents say it's not just homes they're worried about.
A building versus a residential building versus a church or a school. And they're all weighted as one. Florence Elementary School, it's a new school that's open now. It holds about 580, I think, children plus another 50 or 60 in staff. And Encore looks at this as one inhabitable structure.
For landowners, the focus remains close to home.
Have our home and our business here. If these lines come through, we don't really know what we'll do.
During the state hearings the following week, attorneys called Encore's route selection process into question. They said the route put major natural and historical sites in danger. Our Juliana Jackson was also at that meeting.
The proposed Bell County East to Big Hill transmission line project has been a major topic of discussion. During state hearings, attorneys representing landowners are challenging Encore's route selection process, arguing some of Texas's most valuable natural and historic areas could be affected.
A transmission line can adversely affect a state park even if it does not cross a park boundary.
I think we referenced the number of parks within 1,000 feet of a potential park in acknowledgement of, that fact, that the effects may be more than just the act of crossing.
Testimony focusing on Post Oak Ridge State Park, where attorneys noted the park could attract tens of thousands of visitors each year to the Lampasas area. Landowners also questioning impacts to the Colorado River, San Saba River, and other environmentally sensitive areas.
Do you agree that locating a river crossing parallel or near existing infrastructure may mitigate the overall aesthetic impact as opposed to crossing at an entirely new location?
Yes, that would be consistent with the discussions.
Landowners continue raising questions about wildlife, water sources, cattle operations, and the long-term impact.
Isn't it true that the land that is traversed by the 765 kV transmission lines and structures will be changed for generations?
Yes, so the landscape will be modified where you have to clear the right of way for the transmission lines.
Well, as lawmakers geared up for another meeting happening today, the debate continued to grow with more state lawmakers, landowners, and even celebrities joining the fight to delay the project. Our Juliana Jackson covered this just last week. Take a look.
I want Texas to be strong and have a reliable power grid, but I'm concerned about these 765 kilovolts of transmission lines.
Country music star Tanya Tucker has become one of the highest profile voices speaking out against the project, asking Governor Greg Abbott to pause the transmission line plan. State Representative Brad Buckley of Bell County, along with State Senator Kevin Sparks in the Permian Basin, has formally asked the Public Utility Commission to delay any final decision until after the next legislative session.
The misguided notion of the project based upon, first of all, the policy that it brings forward, but then also some of the notice provisions that were extremely lacking for landowners.
Buckley says the issue isn't whether Texas needs reliable electricity. It's if the state has fully checked if this is the right solution.
PUC to simply pause the decision so that we can take more, so we can get ERCOT to look at the data in a more accurate way.
The Texas Senate Business and Commerce Committee will hold a public hearing at the state capitol July 29. Lawmakers will discuss both the future of Texas' electrical grid and whether these proposed transmission lines strike the right balance between growing energy needs and private property rights.
And folks across Texas to weigh in on this project.
While 43 Texas lawmakers also signed on to a request asking the PUC to take a closer look before moving forward. Buckley says it needs to be debated by the legislator before any final decision is made.
Opportunity just here in a few months during the session to really go about this in the way that Texas deserves.
And happening now, we are streaming live coverage of today's meeting with the Senate Committee on Business and Commerce.
Our Sydney Walker is there in Austin right now as local lawmakers continue to advocate against the project. Hundreds of Texans traveled to the meeting as well, enough for 7 hours of public testimony. And officials from ERCOT, the PUC, and other energy leaders in the state were also invited to speak. Lawmakers reviewed the proposed lines and the approval process that allowed them to move forward.
That process was streamlined by House Bill 5066, which gave the PUC 180 days to approve projects, leaving landowners less time to challenge decisions. During today's hearing, PUC Chairman Thomas Gleason said this commission is considering changes that would give them more time. That includes doubling the intervention period from 30 days to 60 days and starting the 180-day timeline after that window closes. But he also made it clear that doing nothing to address transmission needs to the Permian Basin is not an option. We will continue to follow this highly contested transmission line project and bring you the latest details as we learn them.